2023年12月9日に開催されたウィンブルドン賛美の群れクリスマス特別礼拝の聖書朗読とロビンさんのお話を録音いたしましたのでお届けいたします。
ルカの福音書1章26節から32節。ところでその6ヶ月目に御使いガブリエルが神から使わされてガリラヤのナザレという町の一人の処女のところに来た。この処女はダビデの家系のヨセフという人のいいヨセフという人の言い名付けで名をマリアと言った。御使いは入ってくるとマリアに言った。おめでとう、恵まれた方、主があなたと共におられます。しかしマリアはこの言葉にひどく戸惑って、これは一体何の挨拶かと考え込んだ。すると御使いが言った。怖がることはない、マリア。あなたは神から恵みを受けたのです。ご覧なさい。あなたは身ごもって男の子を産みます。名をイエスとつけなさい。その子は優れたものとなり、意図高き方の子と呼ばれます。また神である主は彼にその父ダビデの王位をお与えになります。さて、この土地に羊飼いたちが野宿で乳母をしながら羊の群れを見守っていた。すると主の使いが彼らのところに来て、主の栄光が周りを照らしたので、彼らはひどく恐れた。御使いは彼らに言った。恐れることはありません。今私はこの民全体のための素晴らしい喜びをする知らせに来たのです。今日ダビデの町であなた方のために救い主がお生まれになりました。この方こそ主キリストです。あなた方は布にくるまって貝羽桶に寝ていられる緑子を見つけます。これがあなた方のための印です。するとたちまちその御使いと一緒に多くの天の軍勢が現れて神を賛美していった。意図高きところに栄光が神にあるように、地の上に平和が御心にかなう人々にあるように。御使いたちが彼らを離れて天に帰ったとき、羊飼いたちは互いに話し合った。さあベツレヘムに行って主が私たちに知らせてくださったこの出来事を見てこよう。
イエスはヘロデ王の時代にユダヤのベツレヘムでお生まれになった。その時、占星術の学者たちが東の方からエルサレムに来て言った。ユダヤ人の王としてお生まれになった方はどこにおられますか？私たちは東方でその方の星を見たので拝みに来たのです。これを聞いてヘロデ王は不安を抱いた。エルサレムの人々も皆同様であった。王は民の祭司長たちや律法学者たちを皆集めて、メシアはどこに生まれることになっているのかと聞き出した。彼らは言った。ユダヤのベツレヘムです。預言者がこう書いています。ユダの地ベツレヘムよ。お前はユダの指導者たちの中で決して一番小さいものではない。お前から指導者が現れ、私の民イスラエルの牧者となるからである。そこでヘロデは占星術の学者たちを密かに呼び寄せ、星の現れた時期を確かめた。そして行ってその子のことを詳しく調べ、見つかったら知らせてくれ。私も行って拝もう。と言ってベツレヘムへ送り出した。彼らが王の言葉を聞いて出かけると、東方で見た星が先立って進み、ついに幼子のいる場所の上に止まった。学者たちはその星を見て喜びにあふれた。家に入ってみると、幼子は母マリアと共におられた。彼らはひれ伏して幼子を拝み、宝の箱を開けて、 黄金、乳香、没薬を贈り物として捧げた。ところがヘロデのところに帰るな、と夢でお告げがあったので、別の道を通って自分たちの国へ帰っていった。イエス・キリストの誕生。イエス・キリストの誕生の次第は次のようであった。母マリアはヨセフと婚約していたが、二人が一緒になる前に聖霊によって身ごもっていることが明らかになった。夫ヨセフは正しい人であったので、マリアのことを表沙汰にするのを望まず、密かに縁を切ろうと決心した。このように考えていると、主の天使が夢に現れていった。ダビデの子ヨセフ、恐れず妻マリアを迎え入れなさい。マリアの胎の子は聖霊によって宿ったのである。マリアは男の子を産む。その子をイエスと名付けなさい。この子は自分の民を罪から救うからである。このことが起こったのは、主が預言者を通して言われていたことが実現するためであった。見よ、乙女が身ごもって男の子を産む。その子はインマニュエルと呼ばれる。この名は、神は我々と共におられるという意味である。ヨセフは眠りから覚めると、主の天使が命じた通り妻を迎え入れ、男の子が生まれるまでマリアと関係することはなかった。そしてその子をイエスと名付けた。
皆さん、こんにちは。
こんにちは。
Happy Christmas also. We're preparing for Christmas. This is the Advent time when we think about Christmas and how we prepare for it. And as we just heard, the question we're asking is, why is Christmas joyful? We've been singing and enjoying music and images, and we wonder, why is Christmas joyful? I'm going to speak a part of this in Japanese. 私が日本にいるとき、家族のためにイエスについて何かを書きましたが、それをこのメッセージに読みたいと思います。I hope it won't be too strange, half and half. We've been seeing many images of Christmas on the screen, and here are some more. Some of the Christmas cards that I've been receiving over the past few weeks. Father Christmas, Robin, Three Kings, Christmas tree, peace, love, Mary, another Christmas tree, another Father Christmas, Christmas gifts, and this very beautiful one, Mary and baby. And these are all images, and we've seen many more, and many common ones. You might have seen also Advent calendar like this, or like this, and all these images are meant to celebrate, symbols of celebration. It's a time of joy and happiness. But as we look at the images that have just been on the screen, how many of them have a connection with the first Christmas? I think very few. Maybe this one, this very beautiful Japanese Mary and baby. This definitely has a connection with the first Christmas, but very few of the other ones that we saw. So why is Christmas joyful? The first day when Jesus was born was very different. We just read the story from Matthew's Gospel. A young man and a young woman are engaged to be married, and then they find out that she's pregnant. It's a very hard time for Joseph. We've earlier read the story from Luke's Gospel about Mary's situation. But now in this Matthew's passage, such a shame, such disappointment. Mary had been told by the angel, we saw the picture and we read the story. But not Joseph, he didn't know. But now in this story we read how Joseph also receives a message from the angel. And the angel tells him that this thing that has happened is from God. And he says his name will be Jesus, which means God saves, or the Lord saves. The angel says, you'll call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Jesus, the Savior. Why a Savior? And what is meant by sin? As we look at our world, we see that it's full of sorrow, inequality, division. In the whole world stage, but also among families. When I was in Japan last month, I met a mother and a son. Both are very good friends for a long time. But I met them separately because they're not talking to each other. For the last at least 5 years or maybe more, they haven't had any contact with each other. What a sad family. So what is the problem? Why is our world like that? Let me read something in Japanese about God's plan. 神様は初めにいい世界を作られました。人間が平和に過ごしたり、平等に分けたり、互いに面倒を見たりすることを決めて、人間に自由意志をくださいました。人間が神様の御心に従うように自由意志をくださいました。でも、人間は自分の意志で行動できるようになりました。神様の力と知恵を持ちたいと思うようになりました。それで世界は全部ダメになりました。神から離れてしまって神から離れてしまって前の交わりがなくなりました。人間は道に迷って利己的になりました。自分の思い通りにしたいので、争いや戦いや人種差別をするようになりました。神様が作られた地球を良くしていかないで、貪欲になって搾取しています。And that is still going on today. The COP28 conference taking place now in Dubai, all about that problem of our world. How do we look after God's world? How do we relate to each other? And how do we relate to God? And this is what sin means. Sin is not just about doing small things, committing crimes. Sin is about choosing to do our own will instead of God's will, and becoming separated from God. So the big question is, who will bring us back? And that's why Jesus is called the Savior, who will save his people from their sins. How does he do that? And that's the meaning of the other name that Joseph learns in this passage. The angel said to Joseph, he will call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. But Matthew explains that the birth of Jesus was fulfillment of the prophecy of Isaiah, which we read earlier. His name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God is with us. Emmanuel, name of this church, as we've heard, it means God is with us. We often think of God as distant. We think God is not very connected with our daily lives. And as we've just seen, we really are cut off from God. Human beings became cut off from God, and we couldn't find the way back. We couldn't find the way to God. But God came to us. God himself came into our world. He really became human. And so Jesus came into our world to show us what God is like. Some more I'll read in Japanese. イエスは人を憐れんだり、病気の人を治したりしてくださいました。貧しい人と金持ち一緒にいることを喜んでました。イエスは神に導きます。イエスを通して神のもとに行けます。イエスはすべて疲れた人、重荷を背負っている人は私のもとに来なさい。私はあなた方を休ませてあげます。と言われた。From Matthew chapter 11. イエスは十字架にかけられて私たちのために死にました。それからよみがえられて今も生きているのです。And because Jesus came into our world and died for us, our relationship with God can be restored. We receive His forgiveness, and then relationships with others can be restored. I mentioned a family that are divided, and they're still divided, I'm sorry to say, and I pray for them. But only God can bring them together. But while I was in Japan last month, I met again one of my wife's cousins. He's a successful businessman, head of a medium-sized company. About 7 years ago, he began to think deeply about his life. He remembered the university he attended, a Christian university, and he remembered the values that he had learned there. He had learned about God's love and God's forgiveness. And he wanted to receive that. He wanted to follow the way of Jesus. So about 7 years ago, he was baptized with his wife and became a member of a church. And he told me about that 4 or 5 years ago. When I met him this time, he told me that he's working on the aims and values of his company. He wants to incorporate Jesus' values into his company, the values of love and forgiveness and concern for others, between the employees and between managers and employees. And so this is a great change that has come in his life as he learned about Jesus and his coming. Jesus came to be the Savior, to save us from our sin, to bring us back to God. And this, my wife's cousin, experienced that in his life. So when Jesus comes, God is with us, and our relationship is restored. And Jesus invites us to come to Him. But how do we do that? This last bit in Japanese again. どうやってイエスのもとに行けますか？イエスはそう言われました。私は道の外に立ってすみません。私は道の外に立って叩いている。誰でも私の声を聞いてドアを開けるなら、私はその人のところに入ります。と言われました。Revelation 3:20。その箇所について有名な映画、ロンドンのセントポールズカティードルにあります。スクリーン。イエスはランプを持っていて、道の外に立っています。それは私たちの人生の道です。ドアを開けるのは何でしょうか？私たちはイエスの顔を見つめて、彼の人生と愛と言葉について考えます。イエスが私たちのために死んだと考えて感謝します。そして安心して精神が落ち着く感じがあります。これからもイエスと一緒に生きたいと思っています。When we open the door, and our life is changed. Let me tell you about another friend. My colleague Ram Gidamar is a businessman from a Hindu family. When he was a student in London, quite a long time ago now, he heard about Jesus. He heard that he could put his trust in him and find direction for his life. He was very lonely. He'd come to this country from another culture. He'd lost his father. He felt burdened by the load of his karma, the things that he had done wrong or failed to do. He wanted to trust in Jesus, but it seemed to go against his family's culture and traditions. Couldn't believe it. He read the Bible and became convinced that Jesus had truly come from God, and he could deal with the load of his karma. He could find forgiveness and the way to God through Jesus. So he prayed in his student room, and he opened the door for Jesus to come in. Just as we saw Jesus standing at the door, so Ram opened the door to Jesus. And he felt a great sense of peace. And that night he was able to sleep as he had not done for a long time. And his whole life was changed. And since that time, maybe 40 years ago, he's been serving Christ and following Jesus. So Christmas is a time of joyful celebration. We remember what Jesus has done for us, and we're thankful. And we open the door to Jesus and allow him to come into our lives. So let us remember the names that Joseph was told about Jesus. Jesus, the Savior, and Emmanuel, God is with us. And let us be happy and rejoice at this Christmas time.
次回の礼拝は2024年1月6日土曜日1時半からです。